So tonight, we're not doing a lecture. We're going to tell a story. It's a dark parable, drawn right from the heart of German literature, about the villains we think we know and the necessary shadows they cast upon the world. It all starts with a question, one that really gets to the core of this whole story. It challenges our simple ideas of good and evil. I mean, is it possible that for something new to even be born, something old has to be torn down first? Just keep that question in the back of your mind as we journey into the shadows. Our story begins, like a lot of them do, with a world that's kinda lost its way. A world that isn't in chaos, but something way more dangerous. Perfect, unshakable order. Just picture it. A spiritual order so rigid, so locked in by its own rules, that it's basically become this beautiful gilded cage, a place where safety has completely smothered progress and tradition has strangled any chance of evolution. Because if everything is already as it should be, then how can anything ever get better? And that, right there, is the real enemy of our story: stagnation. It's a state where complacency just takes over, where the human spirit kind of falls asleep because there's no challenge, no friction. The very order that was supposed to preserve the world is now slowly suffocating it, and it's practically begging for some kind of dramatic intervention. So, out of this dead calm, something radical starts to stir. And it's not a hero in shining armor, no. It's something way more complicated, something that comes from the shadows. And this is where we get to this idea of a destructive catalyst. What's so interesting here is how it completely flips our idea of a villain on its head. This isn't a figure of pure evil. It's an agent of change whose destructive actions paradoxically clear the way for growth and progress. And for our little parable here, we've got two perfect examples of this archetype, both drawn from the towering peaks of German literature. They're figures you might recognize, but maybe not like this. So on one hand, you've got Mephistopheles from Goethe's Faust, and on the other, the god Wotan from Wagner's epic Ring Cycle. One of them creates friction to stop people from getting lazy, while the other literally plans his own destruction to break the old rules. Yeah, their methods are totally different, but look at the end result. It's the same. They're both paving the way for a new era. Okay, so first, let's go down into the world of our first catalyst, the tempter, the denier, Mephistopheles. And let's look at his unique brand of, well, productive chaos. You see, Mephistopheles isn't just about dragging Faust down to hell. That's too simple. His real job, in the grand divine scheme of things, is to be the grit in the oyster. He's the constant pushback, the temptation, the challenge that forces Faust, and all of us really, to never give up, to keep striving. He's almost like an unwilling partner in humanity's own progress. And you don't have to take my word for it. The demon says it himself, and this is the perfect summary of his whole deal. Part of that power which always wills the evil and always works the good. His evil intentions are basically hijacked by a higher purpose, turning his malice into a tool for creation. Think about it. Without the chaos he brings, Faust would just get comfortable, right? He'd get lazy, he'd stop reaching for something bigger. So, as dark as they are, the demon's temptations are exactly what keeps the human spirit awake, alive, and always moving forward. All right, now let's shift gears and turn to our second catalyst, a god, the All-Father, Wotan. And he's facing a crisis that's not about temptation, but one of his own making. So, Wotan, he's the king of the gods, right? The ultimate lawgiver. The rules of the world are literally carved into his spear. But he has this tragic epiphany. The very laws he created to bring order have now turned the world into a prison, stopping any real freedom or growth. And just look at the cold, hard logic he's forced to follow. First, he recognizes it. The world is stuck because of my rules. Then he concludes, for things to move forward, my law has to be broken. And finally, the action. I have to actively want my own end. So Wotan's sacrifice, it's a deliberate act of what you might call creative destruction. He knows his end is going to bring about the twilight of the gods, a period of massive chaos. But he also knows it's the only way to clear the stage for something new. A world of freedom for humans, a world that isn't trapped by the old, rigid laws of the gods. Okay, so from the devil's deal and the god's sacrifice, our final act begins. What actually grows from all this destruction? And here's where the main idea of our parable really clicks into place. The chaos that Mephistopheles brought, the self-destruction Wotan chose, those weren't endings. They were violent, necessary beginnings. They were like plowing a burned-out field, you know? A brutal process, but absolutely necessary so that new seeds could actually grow. So what's the harvest from all this chaos?
Well, it's a way for spiritual and cultural growth to happen. It forces us to move past a simple black and white, good versus evil way of thinking. It builds a bridge from that old, stuck world to a new, dynamic one. And it gives us this really deep, layered understanding of a culture that's always wrestling with its own shadows.
And the lesson that ties both of our villains together is pretty powerful. Progress isn't some gift that just falls into our laps. It's not peaceful. It's something you earn through a constant struggle against all the forces that want us to just stay comfortable, stay put, and never change.
And that brings this whole story right back to us, doesn't it? Back to that question we started with. If destruction can be creative on this massive mythological scale, what does that say about the obstacles, the setbacks, even the villains in our own lives? I mean, could they be serving some kind of purpose we don't see?
Maybe the real takeaway here is this. We shouldn't be afraid of the shadow, whether it's inside ourselves or out in the world, because the story of Mephistopheles and Wotan teaches us that the path forward, the path to real growth and freedom, it's never found by running away from the darkness. It's found by wrestling with it, and through that struggle, actually creating something new.